What's up guys, Nolan here, and BSG are still completely silent on new info for 12.8, so while we're waiting on that, I have another discussion for you guys that may turn out to be a bit of a warning for the next wipe, as I'm very confident we will be seeing some major economy changes next wipe. So for those of you that don't want to take part in this, this is the point of early access games. We need to discuss and give feedback in order to improve the game for the future. Just calling something broken, dumb, or overpowered, then trashing the devs gets us nowhere but bored with no game to play, so let's discuss. Today's topic is the flea market, starting with the found and raid only. My understanding is that it was really implemented to combat cheaters, but they are very persistent. So that's the first topic. Would you rather have the cheaters and the RMT that funds cheaters have an easier time making more money in game, which in turn may cause more cheating, or are you okay with the flea market being where it is to fight the good fight? To some of you, it may seem like it's not working, even though it is working, just not completely stopping the cheating, which granted may never happen. In a game like EFT, gear is of course key, and the flea market gives you instant access to whatever you want. And we're not speaking instant in terms of level, because yes, you do need to be level 10 in order to access it, but once you meet that requirement, you're basically done worrying too much about your gear, especially when we're a month or two away from the wipe, because everything is actually relatively cheap. Both the supply and the demand of everything is relatively high. Now, of course, I understand it still costs money to acquire that gear, but at a certain point, we all have our favorite ways of making money, and then after that, it becomes a non-issue where you'll only see your millions just turn into tens of millions and beyond. Chads will say that they earned the ability by playing the game to earn their fortunes, but at the same time will complain about lack of content, of which you are skipping by using the flea market. You didn't loot that item, you skipped out on the gameplay, aka the content involved with getting it. With nothing else to spend that money on, I get that this only makes sense, but hopefully you understand my point on the content skipping thing. You can at any moment fork up the money to have instant access to whatever you need, whenever, and that takes away from the gameplay ecosystem. We all know what happens when you don't have the money or don't want to spend it. We scav, budget run, or rat. This leaves an opening to get the rush of killing fully geared players and stealing their loot, which for me at least never gets old, especially of course when it works. When it doesn't work, you just do it again because you have no choice, but you still play the game and add to that ecosystem. So here's a scenario. You have a few million rubles to your name and you realize that you're out of ammo for the gun that you want to use, and so is the trader. Are we supposed to just completely skip and forget the gameplay involved in fixing that by just clicking 4 times? Well, yes, because now that happens actually constantly. I understand on a case-by-case basis, sure, there's times when that's great, but I think it might be hurting the game. People, myself included, complain about lack of content in Escape from Tarkov, which granted there's a ton more coming, but it really doesn't help when you can skip major portions of the current content with a few clicks. And yes, I am actually looking at the gunsmith tasks. So that's my take on the effects of the flea market on the gameplay loop of Escape from Tarkov. If you have a ton of money, you have nothing to worry about, as you will always have instant access to everything, so you don't have to play for them. If you have some money, you get instant access to necessities instead of having to play the game for them specifically, but you still play the game as intended for everything else, which is good for the ecosystem. If you have no money, then you rat until you do, playing the game as intended, but essentially as a homeless person when you really should be a hardy PMC with sufficient gear, which isn't horrible, but not great for the ecosystem. So the rats will be pissed because they want to be able to make more money. The chads will be pissed because they want to have their endgame gear at their fingertips at all times, even though they are in the best position to earn it through gameplay easier than anyone else. Then the people in between just can't find the right mount for their handguard every once in a while. Like I said at the beginning, if we want the game to be better at release, we need to discuss and make changes now. So let's discuss in the comments. Speaking of the location of this discussion, I have enough of a following on Reddit to make my own community page a thing. So let me know if I should move these conversations over to that instead for the future, as it will be easier to see previous topics and whatnot. Like my comment below about it if you want me to move these over to a personal Reddit. That's it for today, guys. I'll see you in the comments, and if for some reason you don't want to take part, you can learn more about Escape from Tarkov or its development by checking out my playlists for it here. If you are looking for people to play with, then you can join our Discord below. If you like this video, then you know the drill. I really appreciate the people who do. Otherwise, I hope you at least learned something, and I also hope you have a nice day. See you guys.